June 12, 1944. The Allies thought they owned Normandy. They were wrong. The 17th SS Panzer Grenadiers held the hedgerows. They'd captured 17 American scouts that morning alone. But the 18th, he walked into their headquarters laughing. That should have been their first clue. His name was Cole Mitchell, serial number 01196531. Except he doesn't exist. Not in the 82nd Airborne roster. Not in the National Archives. Not anywhere the public can look. If you search for him, you find a blank page, stamped Project Mercury. Access denied. But in Centimira Gliese, they remember the laugh. And the Bodie Sturmbannführer Erich von Steiger didn't take prisoners. His Unit 9th Company, 37th SS, had liquidated the French resistance cells before breakfast. They operated from a 12th century stone barn outside the village. Thick walls, one door, no windows. It was where they took men to disappear. They'd bring them in. Shots echoed. Bodies were burned. That was protocol. Mitchell wasn't captured. He was delivered. At 6:47 hours, he walked into a German patrol with his hands up, didn't speak, just smiled. They stripped his gear, found no map, no radio, no identification beyond the tags. That should have been clue number 2. Spies carry lies. Ghosts carry nothing. Von Steiger demanded his unit's position. Mitchell laughed. The sergeant slapped him. Mitchell laughed harder. 12 SS men surrounded him, their Lugers and MP40s trained on his head. He wasn't bound to a chair. He was bound with plastic cuffs, American issue. Why would they use enemy restraints? Because they planned to make it look like an American on American killing. War crime theater at Mitchell. He was still laughing. They thought it was hysteria. It wasn't. Mitchell was an alumnus of something called the Farm, a Maryland training facility that officially didn't exist until 1947. He could calculate structural collapse points in 4.3 seconds. He'd already identified the barn's load-bearing weakness, the ammunition stockpile, and the 9 additional soldiers marching toward the door. The laugh was a timer. Not for him, for them. At minute 17 of captivity, von Steiger had enough. He chambered around. Mitchell stopped laughing, looked him dead in the eye and whispered, "Dry gig 30. In perfect German. Von Steiger paused. 30, what, seconds? Minutes? Men. He'd find out in 23 seconds. But by then, the first man would already be dead. 0. The shot missed. Because Mitchell moved at the exact muzzle velocity minus human reaction time. He'd studied the Luger's 1390 feet per second speed. The crate tipped, not random heat, loosened its nails against the wall when they pushed him. 5 8mm Mauser cartons spilled out. A German corporal bent to grab them. And that's when the second bullet fired by accident. 7 seconds. The accidental shot did what Mitchell needed. Created panic. One man down, clutching his leg. Von Steiger's attention split between Mitchell and the fire. A fatal error. Mitchell rolled zip ties, scraping against a jagged stone. They didn't break. They didn't need to. He had 14 seconds of slack. He needed 3. 14 seconds. The smoke wasn't cover, it was chemistry. Wet hay creates phosphorus smoke. Blinds, infrared. Nazi night vision gear primitive, but present went white. Mitchell had nothing. No weapon. Just a single bullet. His thumb and the stone floor. He pressed the cartridge base down hard. The primer detonated. Not enough to fire the slug. Just enough to create a flash dash bang. 22 seconds. Mitchell wasn't trying to escape, he was engineering a collapse. The beam went down. So did the roof's northwest quadrant. 2 men killed instantly. 3 more pinned. Von Steiger, still standing, screamed for the reinforcements outside. They were already at the door. 9 more men, 21 total. 31 seconds. The reinforcements saw a bound American in a burning barn. They didn't see the loose ammunition crates Mitchell had dragged into the doorway with his feet. When they rushed in, they kicked them. The crates spilled. Bullets rolled underfoot. One man slipped his finger, squeezed his MP40 trigger. The gun unloaded into his own squad. 30-8 seconds. Mitchell killed 1 man with his bound fists, struck the carotid artery with exact pressure. He'd practiced on dummies for 6 months. The barn imploded at second 40. By second 45, he was 30 meters into the hedgerows. 21 men entered. 0 emerged. The only thing left standing was a wooden cross on the barn wall untouched. Mitch had measured that too. German high command sealed the site within the hour. Not because they lost men, that happened daily, but because a bound prisoner had eliminated a company headquarters with 0 weapons. This wasn't combat, it was a blueprint. If the Allies had a soldier who could do this, the war was already over. They were right. They just had the wrong side. He didn't run to American lines. He went deeper into German territory. Because in Mitchell's mission wasn't reconnaissance, it was assassination. Laban. The real target was von Steiger's superior general Heinrich Rausch, architect of the Oradour-sur-Glane massacre. Mitchell reached his command post by nightfall. Rausch was found dead at dawn. Apparent heart attack. He was 34. The Americans found Mitchell 3 days later, sleeping in a German staff car he'd stolen. He reported mission complete. They arrested him. Not for the barn, not for Rausch, for existing. Because Sergeant Cole Mitchell had been killed in a training accident in 1942. His death certificate was signed by Colonel James Mitchell, his father. The body was buried at Arlington Grave 8117. Still there today. Mitchell was Mercury Unit 12 men, all declared dead. All trained in impossible warfare hand-to-hand with bound limbs. Structural demolition with body weight. Psychological warfare through unpredictable behavior. The laugh, a trigger technique. It forced enemies to pause 0.8 seconds. In combat, that's a lifetime. The program was disbanded in 1945. All 12 files burned. Except 1.20-3 years later, they opened the foundation. The dog tags belonged to a Wehrmacht units wiped out in 1940 by a British commando raid. The only survivor was listed as unknown American volunteer. The lighter proved it was Mitchell. He'd fought the war before America even entered it. And a different name for a different flag. The barn in Normandy wasn't his first visit to that stone shed. In 1940, Mitchell had destroyed that barn to kill a French collaborator. The Germans rebuilt it. When he walked back in 1944, he knew every stone, every weakness. He'd memorized them a lifetime ago. The laugh wasn't just psychological warfare, it was déjà vu. He was reliving a moment. And the Germans were just new actors in an old script. There was one survivor from the barn, the corporal who fell on his own bullets. He spent 40 years in a psychiatric ward, drawing the same symbol. When asked why, he said, "Because the American told me to." He whispered it as he walked out. The symbol was Mercurius Caduceus, the sign of the ghost unit. It was a message. Not to the Germans, to the Americans who'd sent him. "I'm still operational." The CIA investigated the corporal's claim. Found nothing. Officially, unofficially, they reopened Project Mercury for 3 months in 1973. Codenamed Echo. They were looking for soldiers who'd returned from the dead. They found 4. We've all had fought in wars they were never in. All had laughs that made men freeze. All refused to talk about the barn. Von Steiger survived the war. He lived to 97 and his memoirs published posthumously. He wrote one line about June 12th. The American wasn't human. He was the building's memory made flesh. He never reported the truth, because the truth was worse. He'd seen Mitchell before, in 1940, under a different uniform, and he'd been too afraid to say. Someone visits that grave. Every June 12th leaves a Mercury dime. The cemetery staff have photos. The man's face is always blurred, like he exists at the wrong resolution. In 2019, a groundskeeper tried to approach. The man turned, he laughed. The groundskeeper froze for exactly 0.8 seconds. When he looked back, the grave was empty. No flowers, no coin, no proof. Last year, a French urban explorer filmed inside the rebuilt barn. He found the symbol. He posted it. 3 days later, his channel was deleted, not by YouTube, by an IP address traced to a Pentagon server. The laugh in his audio file matched Cole Mitchell's voice pattern from a 1941 training recording, a file that shouldn't exist. 21 men in 45 seconds. A barn that remembered him from 2 wars. A soldier who died before he fought. The laugh wasn't madness. It was a signature. And the scariest part, every military archive has a Project Mercury file. They're all different, all fake, all real. The truth isn't that Mitchell was a ghost. It's that there were 12 of him, and we only know one name. If they unsealed his file tomorrow, would you want to know what else he did? Or are some ghosts better left laughing? Comment below. And if you ever hear that sound 3 note, in a place you shouldn't be, don't freeze.